and welcome to Coffee Talk Tuesday. I'm Shalise Stevens, and I'm here with my co-host Trip, and our guest today is the lovely Alexis. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Shalise.
Alexis. Lexi.
One name only? Is this like Madonna?
Alexis Ashworth.
Okay, so two names. Very nice.
You still go by Ashworth?
Yeah, I do.
What was that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's
Well, isn't it normal to know your guest's last name?
Well, I do know her last name, but then I was like, at the last minute, I was like, well, maybe she changed it because she's been through a lot in the last few years, and sometimes names change.
Okay, I keep my name the same. I'll have you know.
Yeah, well, you're a guy. Guys don't change their name most of the time.
Well, many people accuse me when I finally got married this year of adopting her last name since
You probably should have.
Yeah. Well, no one's looking to kill me. But that's another story. So thank you for coming on the show, and you look wonderful. And Shalise has said many nice things about you.
Yes, Alexis and I go way back. We've known each other for many, many, many years, and she's always just been an inspiration to me. And she just had a birthday and turned 50.
Hey, Alexa, you know what's really cool? Alexis, excuse me. That 50 is the brand new 49. It's amazing. Now, Alexis looks wonderful. And what are your secrets for staying young?
Being black.
Zumba is where a bunch of very attractive people run around and run into each other or do something. Is that pretty much an effective characterization of what it is?
No. This last 3 months have been tough. I saw Shalise once. And 7 other people in the last 15 weeks. So that can't be it. Maybe it's just staying inside, not getting too much sun these days.
Okay. Well, that wouldn't be a bad strategy. So has the pandemic been pretty rough on you?
Oh yeah. It's I work from home. And I only have my kids half time. So when they're not here, it's just me, 24 hours a day, 7 days in a row. So it's a good thing I have a dog.
Yeah.
I think it's been very rough for people personage.
Yeah.
Those of us who like to get out and be with people and are very social creatures, this has been really tough. And Zoom does not take the place of actual contact and being with someone and interacting, and then talking to people with a mask on is really difficult for me.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, you'll crack a joke and they won't see your facial mannerisms, and this has been a tough period.
Yeah, or when you see a friend that you haven't seen in a month or two, and the first thing you want to do is give them a hug, and you just go, "Well, wait," and you wave.
Well, and what's scary now, we're taping this the last Monday in June, is we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, in the States where this thing is taking off again, it is pretty unprecedented.
Yeah.
So we could be in a situation in 2 months where the whole country needs to lock down again, but there's no will to do it.
Nope.
And
I'm on. So I think what happened with me is that I'm a very, very much a people person, and so
really, I've never noticed that.
Never noticed that. Well, once they lowered the restrictions, I was like, I'm free.
Well, a lot of people who get out of prison feel that way.
Right, exactly.
And
I felt like I was in prison.
They commit a crime to go back in.
Not me. I'm not committing a crime to go back in, and I don't want this pandemic to happen. And
really?
Not that
that's an in-depth interview here.
Trip.
Thank you for not wanting that. Really
I don't want it, and I don't want them to lock us down again, and I don't want my kids to not go back to school in the fall, because I've already had them now. It's been 4 months. 4 months.
Yeah, let me do the math. March, April, May, June. Yes, that is 4 months.
4 months. I'm glad you can count.
Yeah. 7 years in college was not wasted.
No, well, good. So Lexi, what have you been doing to keep yourself entertained and not go crazy?
Well, I started painting. I have this new green color up on my wall behind me because everything was beige and I needed a little bit of sunshine in my life. When the whole pandemic first started and everybody started finally wearing masks, I probably made 100 to 150 masks. I tried to homeschool my children and then drank heavily and decided that was never going to be a good plan.
Okay, well, let's get the order going here. Did you start drinking before you homeschooled your children?
Well, yeah, but
in the morning, so you get up and have a cocktail and then start to homeschool your kids. I'm not a moralist at all, but I think you should say drinking till after school. Just a thought.
Well, they're not.
Sometimes I was thinking maybe if I just gave my kid a shot, it would calm him down a little bit. So
I'm sorry for those watching from Child Protective Services. We'll be posting all the addresses afterwards. But what I've read and talking to people is that teachers, especially in grade school level, have never been appreciated as how much they've been appreciated the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Because what they go through is amazing, and how they can take a group of kids and watch them for 6 hours a day is number one, but
keep them active
and teaching. And we need to there are some raises that need to come out of this. And
absolutely,
for sure, educators they all need to get raises.
Yeah. And
then firemen and EMTs need to get raises.
Oh yeah. And I honestly think that policemen need to get raises too.
Yes, indeed. And I was going to make a joke on that.
But it's too soon.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many people this pandemic who's affected, and the people that work in stores all day. I have a very, I don't see a lot of people, but can you imagine working in a store every day and having literally 1,000 people that you come face to face with? It's a scary time. So now that you've stopped teaching your kids and drinking on the same day, are the kids doing better?
Well, it's summertime now.
They've learned to like each other a little bit more. But they get an opportunity to go, see one friend in a park 6-8 feet away wearing masks. They're not having any fun.
No. And the idea of teaching youngsters about a pandemic goes against all rational thought.
Yeah. And my kids are a little bit older, so unfortunately I think they get it a little more, which has them a bit fearful.
Yeah. When we see video of these parties, these super spreader events, it's scary. And I just read about one bar in East Lansing, Michigan, that 84 people got the virus from.
Oh my word.
Yeah, and these things happen, and that's where it gets kind of scary. And kids want to have fun. And the idea of them not having fun for 3 months at a time is pretty difficult.
I'm going to go on the other side of it for just a minute, because I'm actually, I'm not super strict with everything. Like, I wear a mask when I go to the grocery store, and I don't go there very often, but I do a lot of like click to shop, and I get the groceries for my mom and all that stuff. But I'm not super scared of it. And I mean, I let my kids, there's 3 friends that they have that they get to go play with, and we'll like swap homes. But I mean, their parents, one of them's a nurse with a mom, where my son is actually today. So she's a nurse, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to completely stop living.
How do you feel about that?
I feel a little bit better about it these days. I know in the beginning I was really scared, but it seems to me if you wash your hands and, don't cough or sneeze on somebody, just like flu or a cold, and, wear a mask in like bigger groups where you don't know people and don't know who they are, who they've been with, if they've been physically distancing. I feel a lot better about it now than I did a couple months ago. And that's probably not a good thing now that we're seeing our cases go up. But I know that my friends and I are really safe. And we all sort of, make the same choices. Again, wash your hands. Don't go inside people's homes if you don't need to. I mean, I'd much rather sit outside, on a sunny day in the summer than sit inside. So,
but what, like in a case of Shalise being a jewel thief, she's finding it very hard not to go into people's homes. And so her career is such that, oh shoot, is this live? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't want to let that one out.
And for that, I mean, Shalise probably ought to be wearing gloves anyway.
Oh, I do. That's the thing. Like
gloves and a mask. So actually, now that I think about it, it's great
right?
to see public safety and your career kind of mesh perfectly.
Exactly. It's really convenient for me.
Okay. Well, we've learned something today. We've actually learned about other careers that you've had, and that's fascinating.
Okay. We made an oath.
Okay. She was a long haul trucker, but we won't talk about
we won't talk about those days. So Lexi, how does it feel being 50 now?
It is weird. Because I used to think 50 was old. When I was old. And when I was 40, people were older when they were 50. And I don't feel like I'm that older person. I don't think I'm mature enough to be 50. But I like the idea of sort of feeling like I deserve more respect because I'm 50, so I'm just gonna lose all my filters and say what I need to. Like some crazy old.
Well, you're actually really good with that and saying what you feel, and you're involved with a lot of political movements and a lot of things that I love reading your Facebook post because you just put it out there. You're like, well, and that's one reason why I wanted to have you on because we talk to people that are making a difference in the community, and I feel like you are someone who you just put it out there and you tell people how you feel and why you're feeling that way, and you say it in such a graceful way, and I just love it. So good job with that.
What would you say is the biggest thing you make a difference in the community with?
I love the volunteer work that I do at the homeless youth shelter. We just go in and make breakfast a couple times a month. My friends, the women lawyers in Salt Lake put on a homeless youth prom every year. So there's a big dinner and a dance that they do in October. It's fun to be involved with that. Those kids are they're great people. They're so appreciative, and serving them has just been a joy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful cause. And I remember when with Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation, we had camps in the summer, and sometimes kids would come back from camp and no parents waiting for them, literally, and you'd find out that kids basically are homeless. And, can you imagine going through cancer, going through a disease and really not having a home to go through? So in essence, that's one of the aspects of the homeless challenge that we have that doesn't get a lot of publicity, but it's a huge need.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know of kids in our shelter with major medical problems, but I'm sure they're out there and it happens, and just like you hear about people with COVID, being in ICU alone, I'm sure, especially when they're younger, that cannot be easy.
That's scary. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll learn about a couple of your other jobs, aside from long haul trucking, and we'll be back. You're watching, what are we watching?
Coffee Talk Tuesday.
We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back to Coffee Talk Tuesday. I am here with my co-host Trip and the lovely Alexis Ashworth.
Okay, now that we've established the last name, that is wonderful. Before we went to break, we were talking about the homeless youth situation has everything that's happened at the Rio Grande and all the efforts by everyone involved in government and a lot of private people, have they helped? Are things better with homeless now?
I don't know. We serve the same number of kids, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It doesn't seem like the numbers have gone down. They do go down a bit in the summer because it's nicer. But it seems like, sorry, my dog's right here. I'm trying to keep her off the screen.
Well, put her on the show.
Yeah,
Let's see.
fine.
She'll knock my phone over. She's a 110-pound lab.
Is she the nicest lab in the world, i.e. a yellow lab?
Yes. And she is a very light yellow lab, and she is bigger than her dad. Like I said, she's 110 pounds. I didn't know girl dogs got that big. And yeah, she just sheds all over.
My car still, my last yellow lab has been gone for 4 years, but CNN's hair is still in my car. It is yellow lab hair is impossible to get rid of.
My mom has a yellow lab for a seeing eye dog, and so he rides in my car all the time, and yeah, there's hair all over the place. So,
but yellow labs are as close to the perfect dog as possible. Yeah. And with Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation, I had a puppy 12 years ago. Gabby is doing great for being a big lab, but every child who ran, we did an event where the kids would get to run a ceremonial lap around a baseball field with whoever they wanted. So this was down in Vegas, all the characters from the strip shows, all the pirates from Treasure Island, the mascots from the schools, and every kid wanted to run with Gabby, who was a 3-month-old yellow lab puppy at the time. And afterwards, I've never loved anything more in my life. And then she ate my phone, which is what lab puppies do. So, you get some good with the bad.
Coffee table. And I'm like, why am I saying this? I said it before in my life.
So getting back to the homeless youth situation, is there an opportunity for these kids to have their mothers staying at the center with them? How does that work?
So these are kids that are 16 to 24. And they have job programs. They have school. They make sure kids that, can go to school, want to go to school, have the opportunity to be in school. They have counseling programs. They were pretty strict curfew for kids that are staying over. There are times when the shelter's full, though, and they have to find other arrangements for these kids, maybe helping them find a friend they can stay with for the night. So it gets a little tricky in the winter, but it's just a really great program, and the staff is so supportive of these young people, and it's a great place to volunteer. It makes you feel good.
Is most of the staff there, are most of them volunteer based, or do they have like paid staff that work there as well?
Our youth shelter is run by Volunteers of America, and so there's really great paid staff and the kinds of staff they need, counselors and social workers, regular staff that just keeps the place running, admin staff. But the food, the dinners, breakfast, lunches, and dinners are almost all volunteer. And
that is fantastic. And where are the shelters located?
It's on 9 South and 4th West.
Okay. And was this incorporated into the whole refit that the state, Greg Hughes as a speaker and everyone got? Were you benefits of that kind of whole shakeup?
I have no idea because I just volunteer there.
Okay. Because what happened is that the state of Utah and a lot of people like Mrs. Miller got involved and said, this is too big of a problem that we have in our state. And it's all over the West. I mean, it's a huge problem, but that they tore down the road home shelter, built a new shelter down the street from us on 3300 and 9th West. And they've made a lot of changes, and hopefully it's for the good. But, for a while there, to be down at Pioneer Park was a pretty ugly situation.
Yeah.
And they've cleaned that up a lot, but you've got to offer homeless people services that can allow them to then mainstream.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Hopefully we're doing a great job with that. Do you have a favorite story about a young person that you just bonded with when you were helping out down there?
there was a young man that I met at the homeless youth prom about 3 years ago, and then when I would make breakfast, he was there, and he was always polite, and would give me a hug and wanted to talk about how he was doing. And then it was about a year or so that happened, and then he wasn't there anymore, and got a little bit concerned, and I didn't know who to ask, so I asked one of the other kids who had been there off and on for a while, and he said this young man had probably gotten into trouble. And I was just heartbroken. I couldn't believe, after how kind he was and how much it seemed like he was trying to work hard on himself, that that would happen. But it does happen. And probably 6 months later, after I'd asked about him, was another youth prom, and he came back, and he had a job and an apartment, and he was gonna buy a car, and I just started sobbing. I was like,
Oh, that's awesome.
So that connection really affected you when you thought that he'd possibly run into trouble, and because to be homeless as a kid has got to be, I mean, junior high and high school are hard enough as it is. Could you imagine that situation where you don't know where you're going to be at night?
No, I actually had a really hard time understanding homelessness for a long time, and it took me a while to really kind of see, because I grew up poor, but I always had somewhere I could go. We always, had something. We were lucky, but I mean, I literally grew up on church food and food stamps, and it was a rough existence, and but I could never understand being homeless, and it wasn't until recently when I really started, not recent, but like within the last several years, that I really started to understand that it's not the kind of problem it is, and why it's such a problem, and the people that really just, they don't want to be in that situation, but they aren't as lucky, I guess, as I've been to always have somewhere to go. And a lot of people are on the streets because they put themselves there. And but that's another thing, when you start to talk about addiction and everything like that starts to come into play as well, and that's a disease. And so yeah, I mean, it's just to think about children though in that setting. It's just, and a 16-year-old is a child. Like, I mean, they're young adults, but at the same time they're still, they don't have the skills that they need to survive. So it's really lucky that they have people like you, Alexis, that help them through those times and can bond with and connect with and look up to.
By the way, what is a typical breakfast there?
Well, breakfast can be anything that the volunteers want to make. I do something that most people don't do, is I bake for these children. So I usually will do like banana bread or blueberry muffins or German, mini German pancakes or apple turnover, something like that, because I feel like baking, it's, giving somebody love anyway. And so when I can do that, for a group of 40 kids, I want them to know that, I care enough to, make them something from scratch, from my home, from the oven, and give them something delicious.
That is lovely.
Yeah.
And I do custom omelets. They start out as omelets. They always end up as scrambled eggs. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how mine, actually, I love to cook. The one thing that I cannot do is omelets. I can't do it.
What's funny is when you go out and you have breakfast at a buffet and they have an omelet station, I am in awe of those people. I look at them and I go, okay, what are they doing that I'm not? And, to be able to sit there and cook 200 omelets perfect in the morning.
Maybe we should volunteer at the
high-end, yeah. Well,
the shelter, so we can practice making that many omelets, and then we'd be really good at it. And then we can do it all the time.
Yes, practice our omelet making skills. Okay.
So you're like scrambled eggs for these kids.
What else makes you really happy?
My kids make me really happy, and when they're not making me really crazy.
Right.
My dog, Lucy, is, I got her after the 2016 election because I need this emotional support animal.
No. Oh my God.
This is my favorite coffee mug. It's a picture of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin riding shirtless on a horse together. Of course, it was said to me once that, of course, Vladimir Putin rigged the election in 2016. He called Hillary up and said, don't go to Wisconsin or Michigan. So enough said. I always get my anti-Trump little dig in.
Every time.
Yeah,
Every time.
2000 election was tough on people. We had a guest in, a Democrat whose name I've promptly forgotten, who's running for Congress here. And it's tough in this state because it's predominantly Republican state. And though we do have one Democratic in the House, McAdams, but it's tough here. So you got a yellow lab out of the 2016 election. I think you did much better than the rest of the country did. We got an orange badger. I'm going
to leave that one.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave that one. Sorry,
I've interviewed Trump before, and it was when he was building his condo tower down in Vegas, and I got an interview with him.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, you're looking at that hair, and it is really just you're trying to figure out. Okay, it goes here, and then it makes a left, and then it makes a U-turn, and it comes back. And it was a windy day. My hair is blowing like crazy, and his was just locked down. I mean, they could have dropped a beam off the 35th floor and hit him on the head, and I don't think it would have affected things.
So he's got a hard hat on construction sites.
Yeah, exactly. He wakes up with a hard hat.
So wait, what was your interview about?
So I hosted a show called Las Vegas Business News, which was a daily show. And this would be 13 years ago.
Okay.
And he was building the Trump Tower, which was a condo tower down in Vegas. And I worked with a guy who licensed Trump to be the casino owner in New Jersey. And he did not have a good road. Casinos, you think it's just a question of opening up. And he wasn't a very good casino guy, and actually bankrupted a couple of them. But in Vegas, they didn't give him the opportunity to run a casino. He's just doing a condo tower. And, I think he's going to do really well post-presidency.
Yeah.
I just hope it's January 20th. Shalisa's grandmother watches the show and hates me.
Yes. Sorry, Grandma. Again, every show.
Well, if I can affect one person to vote the other way.
No, I am. I mean, I'm with you guys. I'm not a fan. I just don't like to get into political discussions because I am very emotional about things, and I get really. I don't know. It's not. I'm not as educated as I probably should be in a lot of political things. You help me though, and
Yeah.
Lexi, you're big into politics as well.
I do like the politics.
Yeah.
So we've got a gubernatorial election now. As a Democrat, I didn't register as a Republican to vote, but a lot of Democrats are registering as Republicans to pick out someone tomorrow. And I'm not. Spencer Cox seems like a nice guy. I've met him a couple times. Greg Hughes, I've met a couple times. Is a nice guy. And then obviously the former governor Huntsman. And then the tall guy who does the TV commercials seems like a nice guy. Are you voting tomorrow?
No.
Okay. Are you voting tomorrow?
No, I did not change my political affiliation to vote.
Okay. Yes, so we will be voting for Joe Biden I have predicted, though, on the morning show, and this was a year ago, that Trump will not be running for re-election and that Romney will. And I'm still, the odds, it's 99-1 against, but with all the bad news that's coming out for Trump, if he thinks he's going to lose, and right now he's down in certain polls 8 points to 14 points, I don't see him. I can see there's a chance that he would drop out and just say the heck with it.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to lose.
Yeah. So that would be a nice scenario. Yeah. Oh, now you're taking out of your grandmother's will.
I know. Well, she loves me. She already knows how I feel.
Okay. Well, enough about politics.
Yes, enough about that. But actually, and we're pretty close to the end of our show already.
Yes. And let me hold up my other cup. If the light hits Trump just right, it's horrible.
So, Lexi, before we do go, what is a message that you would like to leave with our audience?
Well, I don't know. I only watched a couple of coffee chats because they either come on so early in the morning and I, have to get my own coffee and probably a million things to do. I think the message really right now is, and my hashtags don't work here because I swear in them, but really stay at home as often, wear a mask, wash your hands. And, even with your best friends, still, you can talk across a picnic table that's 6 feet apart. Let's try to flatten this curve a little bit. Have we done everything in the beginning? We were supposed to be at 0 cases on June 25th. We opened up. We didn't all practice social distancing. And, this is where we are now. So I'm hoping that we can all travel again in ways that we feel comfortable. Either cars, but a lot of people say that sometimes restrooms aren't open at gas stations, so I don't know how you drive in a car across country without that.
Yeah, and we are actually driving from St. Louis to North Carolina in a couple weeks, and I'm not in favor on this one.
That doesn't sound.
Yeah, it doesn't. It sounds.
Actually, I love road trips, so that does sound fun to me.
But here's the thing: we have to wear masks, and on the morning show tomorrow, we taped it last week, but I'm doing a thing on masks, and masks are a way to say that you respect your fellow human being, because it's really not for you, it's for them, and that's the best way you can show it. And Shalise and I, actually, she's in Wendover, and I'm here in Salt Lake, so we are very distant.
Screen magic.
Really is amazing. So.
All right, Lexi. Well, thank you so much for being on our show today, and happy birthday again. You get to celebrate all month, so happy birthday again.
Nice to have you on the show.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.